This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
I never thought I'd say this, but welcome to episode 500 of Musical Talk. If you put 50 episodes a year, that will give you a clue that we've been doing this show for 10 years now. It gives me also great pleasure to announce the original co-host of the show, Mr. Andrew Edwards. Hello, Mr. Andrew Edwards. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Nick?
Very well, thank you. Technology has evolved. You're now joining us in our Derby studio.
Yeah, as in my front room in Derbyshire.
Yes, you've moved up north, haven't you? Yeah.
It's lovely up here, yeah, really lovely.
You're not really involved in musicals anymore. You've sort of retired.
I still perform occasionally at Christmas and stuff like that, but I'm teaching now full-time. I'm teaching musical theatre and dancing all around the country in schools, which is fun, which is why I've moved to the Midlands, because I can get all around the country pretty easily from this spot, and it's where my lovely fiancée is from, and we're living in a cottage in the middle of nowhere with our little dog, and we're very happy. It's
sounds
lovely.
Fabulous.
Well,
So,
you know me.
I thought to celebrate 10 years of Musical Talk, we will go back in time and look at 10 kind of big events that happened in the musical theatre world that we covered on Musical Talk, some of which, Andrew, you'll be familiar with, some of which you probably won't be familiar with. We can't be experts in everything, as Musical Talk has proved successfully over the past 10 years.
It's been a hell of a ride, isn't it? I mean, I still listen every week, and it's a fantastic thing to be involved in, and to think I was one of the founding members. Not that I really did much. It was all you, but, you know, it's always nice to say.
You were one of the founding fathers, weren't you? Which is a nice segue into what we're going to discuss now.
Yes.
We're going to start now and go back and back and back and back all the way to 2006. But I want to talk about 2016 because the big show at the moment, obviously, is Hamilton. You're a big history fan.
Yeah, I mean,
and even you didn't know who Alexander Hamilton really was, did you?
Yeah, well, I knew he's on one of the bills, and a $10 bill, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's as much as I knew about him, really, honestly. I've studied American history as well, not extensively, but quite a lot, because, you know, as you know, I'm very interested in history, and I run a walking tour company in London, so I have to know my history. But yes, a more obscure character, I think, for the British. But researching him, he was actually seemed to be too pro-British, apparently, for some of the founding fathers. But I don't know that much about him, to be completely honest. But apparently, he was quite pro-monarchy, which at the time was our King George III, the king that lost the colonies, as we call him, the Mad King George. Wonderful play. I
haven't listened to any of the show. It's won Tony Awards, it's won Pulitzer Prizes, it's won this, it's won that.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of the numbers from it, but and I've not. I mean, I've just watched it on the way to work. Do you know what I mean? As you do, you sort of Google stuff and you watch on YouTube. Watched a couple of the numbers, but nothing that blew me away. I have to say, but I'm sure. It'd be much better if you were there in person. I'd love to see it because it's an historical thing, and as I've already mentioned, I do love history, so I'm looking forward to it very much. And the fact that it's coming to London, I was quite surprised. It's such an American thing coming to London. But then, you know, strange things have happened. Other things have worked that were quite similar. So you never know.
And it's going to go into the newly refurbished Victoria Palace Theatre, which Cameron McIntosh now owns, and Cameron's going to cover it with his amazing quality that he does with all the theatres he gets.
The sculpture on top of the Victoria Palace is absolutely beautiful. You've seen it. It's the globe and the ballet dancer.
Yeah, of course, Billy Elliot played there for many
donkey's years,
many decades. I think what'll be interesting with Hamilton is the kind of big thing in America is that people are paying thousands upon thousands of dollars for a ticket to see this show. You know, it's all about scalpers and second-hand ticket sales, and that's illegal here, I believe.
Yeah, well, it's a sick bird, as I always say.
What do you
mean
by that?
Forget it. Illegal.
Oh, God.
Oh, bad jokes. You know me. Can't help it.
Cool. We obviously won't have those prices here, but it'll be interesting to see, as you've always said, and as other presenters have said on the show, it might be a show that the Americans will come here and see. It might be a show that the musical theatre students and fans will flock to see. Flock birds.
Hey.
But is it one your neighbour would go and see? So,
well, that's it. The West End survives on coach trips. We all know this. It's got to be friendly to the sort of later middle-aged women that get on a coach from Derby, say, or Middlesbrough at 7 o'clock in the morning, come down for lunch, watch an evening show, and then drive back again. That is how the West End makes its living.
Would they see
coach
Hamilton,
trips.
a hip-hop musical about one of the founding fathers of America who's on the $10 bill, or would they see Mamma Mia?
Or would they go and see Mamma Mia?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's innocently recognisable, the music, it's a bit of fluff, they know they're going to enjoy it. Because they saw ABBA win the Eurovision Song Contest in 1980, whatever it was, in Brighton. I hate to say it because I love the fact that they're taking a risk, but they're taking a risk, I think, in the wrong theatre for a start. Victoria Palace is not in the West End; it's in Victoria. Victoria's, as we know, is having a lot of having a big makeover at the moment. A lot of the pubs have been shut down. A whole block has been pulled down.
There's no point in you going there, is there, Andrew?
I mean, I was there last weekend. I was in Victoria last weekend, and it did, as you said, look like a building site. If I was going to go to the West End now, I would probably choose a West End theatre than get. Now I know what Victoria looks like, and I know that, you're so far away from a decent meal and a decent pub. It's not a place that I would choose to go to the theatre.
But maybe Cameron is hoping that once it's open, the building work is all complete, because they must be close to finishing it by now.
Yeah, they are. It's a good point, well made. I think
he knows what he's doing. Let's say.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced of the location for that play, for that musical. I think it should probably be in the heart of town.
Well,
but
we'll find out how it does this time
we'll
next
find out
year.
how it does.
Probably.
I wish it all the success and all the best, because everything I've read on it has just been fantastic. Everyone's been talking about it. My boss, I work for here in Derbyshire, who I teach musical theatre for. First thing she mentioned when she saw me last week was Hamilton. So it's getting around. The word's out there, and I think it's if people want to go and see new things, which I think they do, it'll be a fantastic thing. It's I wish you all the best.
This time last year, Gypsy was a big thing. Quite rightly so, because it was the first time it had been performed in the West End since Angela Lansbury did it.
Best overture in musical theatre.
Best overture, best ending, and one of the finest lead performances I've ever seen in my life, with
Imelda Staunton.
Dame Imelda Staunton
storming
the stage as Mama Rose. Did you see the telebroadcast, Andrew?
I did, yeah. Very good. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was excellent. I couldn't really fault it. The only real fault, some of the ensemble, when I saw it, looked a little bit lazy, but I think they'd been doing it for too long by that point. The staging was perfect. Imelda was just incredible. One
of the main criticisms it got is that you are watching a theatre performance performed in a theatre in front of a theatre audience, done very close up. So a lot of Imelda's choices seem very over-actory, if that makes sense. Because she's not performing down the barrel of a camera, she's performing to 1,100 people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. They can't really give that criticism if she's performing for a theatre.
Yeah.
Her live audience have got to be the priority. It's very nice that she might be performing for 2 or 3 million people throughout the country, but come on, you have to.
Yeah.
First and foremost,
the source location.
Remember, it's a live performance.
I love the fact that the BBC filmed it, and we have it forever to buy or to watch. And it's a testament to Imelda that she gave that wonderful Olivier Award-winning performance. This time in 2014, it was the summer that you and I, Andy, went to see Miss Saigon, the revised production. Oh,
fantastic. Yeah, wonderful.
At the Prince Edward Theatre, and you can
They moved the interval, didn't they? They moved the interval, if I remember right. Yeah, they changed the end of Act 1 number.
Oh, yes, you said, I hope at the end of Act 1 that something happened, and it didn't.
Oh, no, that was Act 2. That was Act 2. That was the actual final thing. Yeah, they changed. Some of the staging was slightly different, but then you expect that. Oh, it was fantastic to go and watch a musical with you. I mean, it was brilliant. It was the old team back together, and we did a review of it.
We did.
Poor old Chris had lost his voice, didn't he?
He had, yes, but he's going to Broadway now to do the show.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Good for him. I mean, he was great. It was just a shame that he was cracking all over the shop.
But I think
kind of bad for him.
They had what you called...
Second Night Blues. Second Night Blues.
Which needs to be a song that we need to write.
Oh, absolutely. It's the opening night. Everything leads up. You do the press nights. You do all the previews. You get to the press night, which is your opening night. All the press are in. It's fantastic. You go out afterwards. You have a few drinks. You enjoy it, and when you come to do the second show, you just can't. I don't know. No matter what you do, no matter how much energy you put into it, you just cannot get that same level of performance. And it's no fault of a performer, it's no fault of anyone. It's just the fact that it isn't the opening night. All those emotions and all of that adrenaline just isn't there. And everyone comes off stage and says it's second night blues, second night blues. You'll hear it said again and again and again by performers. We definitely saw the second night blues. There were gremlins in, lots of things going wrong.
We had someone falling off a table at one point, I think.
Someone fell off a table, yeah. Some of the ensemble were getting the dance moves wrong on the front row. You know, they're on the very front of like a big ensemble of dancers, and this wonderful sort of art. I remember, I can see it so clearly. It was when they were dancing with all the AK-47s during the one of the dream.
It's all coming back to Andrew now.
Marching away. Two dancers, not just one, two dancers got it wrong. And I was shocked to see it. I thought, well, second night blues, isn't it? Second night blues. Nothing goes according to plan. The gremlins are always in. But it was a fantastic piece. I mean, Miss Saigon, what can you say? It's just such a classic piece, such a wonderful piece of musical theatre. It ran at the Theatre Royal Jubilee for how many years? And then, you know, its first revival at the Prince Edward was just as good.
Would you say it was a revival? I'd say it was a complete reimagining.
It was the same show, because I saw it on tour the year before in Oxford. It was the same show. They hadn't really reimagined the original West End piece. They just restaged it slightly for the tour, and then bits of that restaging had ended up in the revival, which was kind of odd, but interesting to see. I mean, as I say, they'd moved the interval. They'd changed some of the numbers ever so slightly. Some of the lyrics had changed from the original. If you listen to the original recording, and then you watch that show, some of the lyrics were different. And the script was different.
They'd also written a whole new song.
Yeah, that's right.
That's very Cameron, isn't it? Let's look at the piece and change it. Musical, you know.
Let's change it and
sometimes said musical's never written; it's only rewritten and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't criticise it for that. It's just interesting to see how over 20 years it's evolved, and not for just reimagining it for one production. It's never gone away. It's always been on tour.
Yeah,
it's either finished the tour, been pre-production or in production, all over the country. It's been touring constantly, all over the world, in fact. And it's just interesting to see how that tour, or those sequence of tours, have reformed and remoulded the piece. Very, very interesting.
And I think a film is probably inevitable now.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard a couple of rumours. It was done with Les Mis to brilliant, absolutely brilliantly. Les Mis was filmed. I'm never a fan of...
And it was also done with Phantom, and that's all, so...
Yeah, Phantom, let's not talk about that. I mean, Phantom was terrible, and Les Mis was brilliant, and it's just... I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Les Miserables, I'll be completely honest, because I'd always seen a production in the West End that was... that had been going, and the cast had been doing it for 6 years, and I don't know, I always thought it was quite laboured and slow, and the cast were bored. A load of them always looked bored to me. There was always a principal that just phoned in the performance. And then I watched that film thinking, I'm not really a fan of Les Mis, but we'll watch it anyway. And it absolutely blew me away. I mean, absolutely brilliant. I remember seeing it at the Palace Theatre when I was about 15 years old, and watching an opera singer who was, I'm sure, a very nice lady, but performing, the big song, I Dreamed a Dream, and it was just no emotion. It was just all about the quality of her voice. That's all I could, there was nothing going on there, nothing behind the eyes. And then you watched Anne Hathaway, who didn't sing it. She acted it.
Yeah.
And to me, that is musical theatre. Forget the quality of someone's voice. It's nice. It's always nice to hear. But if you haven't got any emotion, if you're not performing it, if you're not telling the story, forget it. Musical theatre is all about telling the story. There's a future for me
still, then.
Yeah, well, it's so true. I mean, it's not about the quality. It's about the performance. It's about telling the story. I mean, I talk to 5-year-olds every day when I'm teaching, and I'm saying to them, dancing, singing, acting, it's about communication. It's just as any art is, if you're looking at a painting, or if you're playing a piano, or if you're doing whatever it is, art is about telling a story. It's about communication.
We're going to talk about Les Mis a bit later, but I want to go back more in time to 2013. Any idea what the big show then was, Andrew?
You're having a laugh. You're asking the wrong person.
What do you say
yesterday?
What do you say when you answer the door or the telephone?
Good Book of Mormon, was it?
Correct. Yes.
Hello. I actually missed my audition for this. I had an audition for the original cast in the West End, and I had horrific. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't go. And I was absolutely gutted because, as you know, I am a massive fan of South Park. I'm watching the new series just slightly. Watching the new series religiously, absolutely brilliant. This new series is, I think they're best yet. This series and last series, just brilliant. The way that they've evolved that show to what it is now, it's just perfect. It's funny. It has a message. It's perfect. I was so excited to meet the creatives on that show, and I got sick and I was absolutely gutted. I can't tell you. I tried to rebook my audition, but there was just no way. They were like, no, you missed your slot. That's it. It's gone. And I was absolutely gutted. And 2 people in the cast of Wizard of Oz that I worked with got into the show, and I was so jealous. I was gutted.
Did you get to see it?
I've seen it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, as funny as you think it's going to be, as clever as you know it's going to be, just Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant. It's funny, it's touching, it's slightly annoying. I mean, everything that you want it to be. By annoying, of course, I mean in the right way.
Yeah,
and,
I think I've shared my issue with the show, with the musical on this show before, but I'll say it again. Of course, I enjoy it when I go. I've seen it 3 times, I think, now, and it's brilliant. It's funny, it's irreverent, it's well written, it's parody, it's intelligent, it's everything you'd expect from Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and huge credit to Bobby Lopez as well.
Yeah.
My issue with the show is it makes fun of a very sad situation that is still present in the world, and it's an expensive show to see, and we, as a general middle-class audience, sat in the £75 seats. I would like them to give £1 of every ticket sold to an AIDS charity.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, actually. I totally agree with that. You raised a valid point.
They do special performances for comic relief, but it would be a wonderful PR effort, the show, because Trey Parker and Matt Stone don't need the money, let's be fair.
No.
Scott Rudin doesn't need the money. The cast, yes, they need to be paid, but take... maybe not even £1, maybe 50p or 10p, or when you book a ticket, offer a donation, because if you're forking out £75, which is one of the cheaper prices for this show, this was the big thing, wasn't it? It was, a premium seat for this show Friday, Saturday night, it's up to about £220 now.
Mine was £100. My ticket was £100.
Would you have minded if you added £1 extra onto that to go to an AIDS charity?
No.
So that's my one issue with the show, but other than that, I always enjoy it. I always laugh.
You could say that about every show.
But this makes us laugh at Uganda.
I know what you're saying, but it's not just Uganda as well. It's the whole, religion as a whole. It was sort of taking the mickey out of. But then Trey Parker and Matt Stone have attacked every major religion. So you kind of expect that. But I see what you mean about the whole Uganda thing. And yeah, I understand, and I agree with you.
The year before that, 2012, there were 2 theatrical events which I want to talk about. One was Little Musical by Stars. I've got a cold, listeners, so you'll forgive me. It's that lovely time of year, isn't it? We saw Soho Cinders by Stiles and Drew, which was a modern retelling of Cinderella, set in Soho, which I saw at the Soho Theatre. There's a theme here. Very, very much enjoyed that. But a bigger theatrical event, which we didn't cover on Musical Talk, because it wasn't really a musical, was the Olympic ceremony.
Oh, fantastic, wasn't it?
Which was a big thing in London, wasn't it? To say the least. I think every musical theatre performer in the country was somewhat involved or knew someone who was involved.
I was offered a part without even auditioning. They just phoned me up. Yeah. I was doing Wizard of Oz. My agent phoned me up and said they want you to perform, and I just said no. And they offered me some good money, but it wasn't about that. I just said no because I want to watch it.
Do you regret it now?
No, not at all. I remember exactly where I was when I saw that, and I could sit on my balcony overlooking the Thames, and I could watch the fireworks and see it on the television at the same time. I wasn't going to miss that. Why would I want to be involved in it when I can watch it? No. That was one thing that I put my foot down and said I refused to do. My missus didn't agree with me. She said, come on, you've got to do it. I said, no, I want to watch it. This is something that's going to change London forever. It's going to be, life-altering. It's only going to happen once in our life. I don't want to be backstage. I want to be watching it. Why should I, no, I'm not going to do that. And so, yeah, that's why I decided not to do it. But I had some friends that were in it. It was fantastic. I mean, what a show. What a show. Everyone was saying, but the trouble is with the British press, they're quick to criticise before an event has actually happened. And they're always saying, the transport's going to be bad, London's going to go down, strikes are going to happen, it will be a disaster, it will cost too much money, Beijing spent more money on their opening ceremony, we can't do it as well. Every single journalist, and I mean every single one that said anything like that. They need to be rounded up, put in a room, and shot. It was exactly the opposite.
There'll be no press left.
I know. We're so negative as a people, and members of the press, they wind me up because they're so. I mean, Trey Parker and Matt Stone have done an episode of South Park about it. It's this Captain Hindsight. When something's happened, they can look back and go, "Oh, well, you should have done this. You should have done that." They can look to the future and say, "Oh, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be awful. It's going to be terrible. The world's going to end." No, it's not. It's not going to end. And we did it brilliantly. We summed up our country. It was just beautiful. I adored every single minute. Yeah, I think we really sent a message to the rest of the world, and it was fantastic.
2011, a lovely event that we covered on Musical Talk was the benefit gala for Dress Circle. If you're new listening to Musical Talk, Dress Circle, and if you're new to the world of musical theatre, Dress Circle was a shop. Do you remember those things? They were buildings you went into and you bought stuff off a shelf. And as opposed to going on your iPhone and clicking on Amazon and going, there it is, or Spotify saying, I'll listen to the album now. Dress Circle was like a sort of mecca for musical theatre fans, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. I went there so many times. Growing up, every time I went to London, when I was a boy, I'd go straight to Dress Circle and get myself a new score or programme or a CD. Oh, it was a brilliant place. Everyone went there. Everyone knew it. It was a wonderful little shop, and it's just off Seven Dials. It was absolutely lovely, and it was such a shame that it had to go.
I had a very proud moment when we had a Musical Talk poster up in Dress Circle. That was very nice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were very open to stuff like that. They held a huge benefit gala at Her Majesty's Theatre, the home and front of the opera. Loads of people in it. Ramin Karimloo, I remember. Stuart Matthew Price was one of the organisers, I think. And you can go back into the archives and listen to that episode there. 2010, 2 events I want to talk about. The first one is the Les Mis redo, again like Miss Saigon, at the Barbican Theatre where it originally started.
Yeah.
I saw it, and I really, really, really preferred it over the production that has been playing at the...
Running for 1,000 years, yeah.
Running for 100 million billion years. And the reason I enjoyed it was because it had a sense of place, as opposed to a vague representation of a church or a hospital. They actually had a set that looked like a church and a hospital, if that makes sense. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer when it comes to understanding a plot like Les Mis, and for the first time ever, which to be fair was only the second time I saw Les Mis, was at the Barbican, and I actually got the story more than I did the first time. And it was just nice to see it at its original home. Another production I got to see, speaking of the RSC at its original home, was Matilda, a show that has long been one of my favourites. Did you ever see it?
No.
What?
No, never saw it. My missus went to see it, and she was going on and on about it, how brilliant it was. The trouble is, I don't like children on stage. The first thing that Caroline said, my other half said, was the children are brilliant.
Yeah.
They're absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure they are. But I just don't like children on stage. Which is an awful thing to say. I know it's awful.
Do you not like them as an audience member, or do you not like them as a performer?
No, just as a performer,
But does that mean as an audience member you'd be okay with it? Because they're just doing their job and you're there witnessing it as opposed to having to be part of their work?
No. I mean, as an audience member, I'm not a fan of children on stage.
Okay. Go and see Matilda. It's not Annie, it's not Oliver, it's not precocious. They're actually quite good.
I'm just being ridiculously narrow-minded, but I don't like children.
2009 saw a highlight for me, which was my first ever time seeing Forbidden Broadway at the Menier Chocolate Factory, which was wonderful. We interviewed Jared Alessandrini very early on in Musical Talk, so we've always been a big fan of theirs. Nothing beats seeing that show. You could see it 20 times and it's still one of the funniest evenings ever, and I hope it comes back again and again and again, because it is truly a wonderful delight.
In London, it was fantastic. It was nice to see it come over. A friend of mine, Gary Lake, did a very similar thing called Jest End.
Yes.
Because he is such a massive fan of it. We used to sit there for hours and hours listening and laughing over Forbidden Broadway and how we could not emulate it, but,
pay tribute.
Do it justice. Pay tribute to it here in London. You can't go wrong with Forbidden Broadway. Every single time I listen to one of their new releases or one of their new shows, it sticks in your head. And the fact that when you listen then to the original musicals that they've, made fun of, all you can do in your head is sing the Forbidden Broadway lyrics. I mean, it's a testament. I mean, I remember when you interviewed
Gerard Alessandrini.
Alessandrini, that's it. Always makes me laugh, that name. Beautiful name. I was amazed that you got him to talk to you, because that was really early on as well. That was like within the first 10 episodes, wasn't it? We spoke to him.
Episode 3 or 4, I think.
I couldn't believe you'd spoken to the man behind Forbidden Broadway.
Yeah.
And I was just such a massive fan. We used to listen to it in the dressing room on Beauty and the Beast every day. We'd put on, what we'd do, we'd always put on the musical, and then we'd put on the Forbidden Broadway version of that musical. I mean, the best one they've ever done, still, I maintain, is Les Mis. When they did that, the whole Les Mis section. Oh, God, it was brilliant. At the end of the show, you're another year older. Just brilliant. So, for God, it's high.
Yeah.
It's really high. Pity me, change the key. It's just fantastic.
2008 was the year Rent closed on Broadway. And we interviewed Anthony
Right, and it had been running...
Yeah, it been running from 1996 to 2008. Did I just say it had been running? What is wrong with me?
You did.
It had been running from 1996 to 2008. And it's just now that it's coming back to do another UK tour. It's never really worked here, has it?
Well, the problem was that, obviously, Rent remixed. Whoa, let's just not
Where do you start with the problems of that show?
Let's just not even discuss that one. I mean, I had a good friend that was in it, and the person that you really want to talk to about this is my other half. She was in the West End production at the Prince of Wales Theatre. It's the only West End show she's actually ever done. She's done so much theatre work, more than I have. She's gone all over the country, all over the world, but she's only ever been in one West End production, which is quite amazing considering the amount of work she's done. But Rent is her absolute favourite thing she's ever done, ever. She's obsessed with it. She thinks it's absolutely brilliant. I agree with Peter Griffin on this matter. If you know the joke, when he's doing, I think it's when they're going to do The King and I. He said, if I wanted to do a bad production, I'd just put on Rent.
You can tell Seth MacFarlane isn't a fan of Rent, can't you?
No, I'm not really either. I don't get it. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it, and I've watched the film was passable. I've seen it on stage. It's good. It's got some very brilliant, really catchy songs. I mean, obviously, Seasons of Love is brilliant. One Song Glory, brilliant. But when I watched it as a piece,
One Song Glory sums Rent up perfectly for me.
Yeah, One Song Glory, exactly. I didn't feel a connection with the characters. I just thought, you lazy bastards,
Go and get a job
and pay your fucking rent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But the first thing
Welcome back to Musical Talk, Andy.
How are you years behind on your rent? Because you have AIDS, right? I see. So you're basically living in squalor.
Yes, in a very nice loft apartment in New York.
Exactly, and they've got this beautiful place that they're living in. I just think, hang on a minute. Sorry, let's back up here a minute. But yeah, I get that the whole point of it, is to highlight the AIDS disaster in America at the time. Awful, but and a great subject to make a musical about, and basing it on
La Bohème.
La Bohème, thank you. I could not remember. Viva la Bohème, of course. It just left my mind then, which is brilliant. Fantastic opera, classic.
2007 saw the film Sweeney Todd, which was a big episode for Musical Talk because we had Johnny Depp, Alan Rickman, Helena Bonham Carter, Stephen Sondheim, Tim Burton, all in one episode, and that was a very nice day for me. I thought it was a really good film if you didn't know the musical at all. Yeah,
I think if you've seen the musical, especially the original Broadway production, which I've only seen on video, on film, just brilliant. I mean, one of the best things from a musical theatre aspect I've ever seen. Watching that original cast, just brilliant. It's widely available on YouTube, I believe. I've seen it on YouTube. There's the musical, as it's never going to be performed again. That's it in perfection. There you are. You can't beat that. You can't beat it. The cast were perfect.
Do you think the film did that on purpose to break away from the musical theatre
Very different,
version?
Yeah, very different. I like the fact that Johnny Depp, he didn't try and sing it You know, he didn't try and make it. You know, he gets it.
Yeah.
He gets the communication aspect.
He does a very good David Bowie impression, you could say.
He does, yeah. And it doesn't matter the quality of his voice. It was nice.
It's about the performance.
Oh, okay, about the performance, and he did that very, very well.
So, listeners, you're learning still after 10 years.
Helena Bonham Carter, fantastic.
All about the performance.
All about the performance, and to be fair, one of the best actresses of our age. Both of them, Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter, two of the best actors of this generation. So you're never really going to get a bad film. It's not about that. From our point of view, from musical talk point of view, how was the musical as a performance? It was okay. It was okay. The individual performances were brilliant. The staging and the actual film itself, yeah, it was passable. It was good. I wouldn't say it was outstanding, but I enjoyed it. It was fine.
The amount of blood.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Tim Burton does well. He did it in
it was a
Sleepy
proper
Hollow,
horror.
you know.
It was a proper horror film, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did the same thing in Sleepy Hollow. He made everything almost black and white. So anything that had to be seen had to be in red. So anything that was significant was red. Yeah. Oh, that's what he does in Sleepy Hollow. That's what he does in most of his sort of really gothic-y type films. He'll make it black and white, and then when you see blood, you really see blood. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, am I right in thinking you see Tower Bridge in that film? I might be making this up, but I've got a feeling at one point he crosses Tower Bridge, which wasn't.
Well, no one.
I might be making this up.
I mean, no one knows. Well, you probably do, but no normal person knows if Sweeney Todd is 18th century or 19th century.
Yeah, it's 18th century.
Because most people think because the musical is written as a Victorian melodrama.
Yeah, but it's obviously Georgian. The actual story comes from the Georgian era. It was originally called A String of Pearls. It was a Penny Dreadful novel, but set in the 1700s, but wasn't really released until the 19th century as what we call a Penny Dreadful. So you bought it for a penny. It was a sort of a bit of entertainment. It was called A String of Pearls. It was the first time the main character had not been the hero. When they released this Penny Dreadful, originally it was called A String of Pearls, and the sailor was the main character, and he visited Sweeney Todd. He was killed for his string of pearls he was bringing to his lover, but the audience was more interested in the murderer than the victim, and it was the first time ever that the hero wasn't really the hero. And so they re-released it a few weeks later, telling the story from Sweeney Todd's point of view. And it was quite interesting how the Victorian audience preferred that story to the original. And that's where the anti-hero, the dark characters, your Batmans and those sorts of dark anti-heroes come from. Because let's face it, Sweeney Todd is not a nice person.
No.
He's a serial killer. There's a wonderful piece that I think it was the Daily Telegraph released about the real Sweeney Todd. You can Google it, the real Sweeney Todd, and you'll find an article written where a journalist had actually gone back and tried to find where this story comes from. And it seems that
Isn't
he was
French?
actually a real... Yeah, well, there's that version of events that it happened in Paris. And there's also an actual character, a young man that grew up, he was a boy, grew up in Newgate Prison, and learnt the hairdressing trade there and paid for his release when he was a teenager, and then went on to become the most successful serial killer in history, if he ever existed. It's a very interesting article. I'll see if I can find a copy for you. I'll see if I can find a link. Very, very interesting.
Thank you for that. So that's a Sweeney Todd film released in 2007, 1 year into Musical Talk's release. Of course, at the time of Musical Talk's beginning, there's one show that is just celebrating its 10th anniversary in London as well, and don't we know it, because it's on every bus that goes past.
Yeah.
It is the Green Girl That Flew, which is Wicked.
Wicked, yes. I mean, one of our early... one of our earliest... Yeah, literally, yeah. Our first episode, we talked about Wicked. Yeah,
Second episode, we talked about Wicked with Stephen Schwartz, which is quite nice.
Wicked. Yeah. We talked about Wicked constantly.
And eventually we had Idina Menzel on, and it was all okay.
I mean, it was just brilliant. Still a great musical, still good to go and watch occasionally. Been on tour now. It's Wicked. What else can we say?
A memory I have of you still is you mime me along to Loathing in the dressing room.
Oh, God, that was on Beauty and the Beast. So we always had a musical on every show. Let us straight boys mixed in with, well, the whole male dressing room, should we say. And it was the straight boys that were singing along with the musicals more than the homosexuals, which is quite, interesting in itself. It was we were in Woking, not Worthing, Woking. And that song came on, and we all just started miming along. My favourite part of it, Chris Gage, bless his heart, lovely guy, I love Chris, but he didn't know the words. So he was just opening and closing his mouth. And then Philip Comley there straightening his hair as he was singing. Oh, it was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
And Wicked is the show that no one knows why it's a hit here.
We said it early on, didn't we? We're not sure it was going to be a hit or not.
No.
It's too American. And now we're saying the same thing about Hamilton.
And Book of Mormon as well.
And Book of Mormon, yeah.
It's playing in one of the biggest theatres in London. It's still doing really, really well. It's got its hordes of fans. I think some of the fangirls we talked about when it started, they're probably all grown up now, got kids their own.
Shiz kids, as they were called then.
Oh, God. And that's 10 years of musicals that we've discussed on Musical Talk.
Hey.
Andy, thank you very, very much. It's
a pleasure.
Been a wonderful
journey. You can cut a lot of what I said out, I'm sure.
I can, but I won't, because we won't have an episode. It's been lovely to get back talking to you again, and I quite like the setup. We should do this more often.
Yeah, we should. Are
you coming to London anytime soon? We should go and see
the show. I was down last weekend. I was down last weekend to watch Steel Panther.
What's that?
Steel Panther. They're a metal band. Google them. You're going to love it.
Okay, they're popular.
Actually quite musical theatre, actually.
I thought it was a musical. I thought you meant Steel Pierre for a second.
It's a big performance. It's a metal band, but fantastic band. Really funny.
I'm still waiting for the Styx jukebox musical.
Styx is actually the drummer in Steel Panther.
Okay, well, there you go. Andrew Edwards, thank you very, very much. I would like you to do an interview with Caris, please, because I think that could be quite interesting.
Yes, I will.
Andy, thank you very, very much, and thank you, listeners, for joining us for 10 years, 500 episodes of Musical Talk. Thank you to Thos and Tim and all the other people who have been involved with along the way. Over 1 million downloads, so that's really, really nice. Thank you very, very much to everyone who has listened. We are on Twitter at twitter.com/musicaltalk. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/musicaltalk. We do have a website, which is musicaltalkpodcast.weebly.com, or, what was it? nickHudson.andyedwards.googlepages.com or whatever it was in
some crap like that years ago, yeah.
In the olden days. But don't go there, because that's long deceased. Andy, thank you very, very much indeed, and we shall probably speak to you soon.
Yeah, look after yourself.
Right,
love
thank you. Bye. Hello, dog.
My dog's barking. It's Chester. We can put him into the episode as a presenter.
Yeah, speak more sense than most of us.
Chester, quiet!